Alright guys, what's going on? We're coming back after a pretty good weekend in Austria. We raced the sprint race and the main event. We scored some points for the sprint race, but not the main event. We lucked out just behind the P10 there at the end with the very strange yellow flag. If you guys remember, that yellow flag basically went in early before everybody else could basically stagger up behind everyone. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen that video, please go check it out. We're gonna basically just jump right into it. Not really much else to say. We did go through a summer break, so we ended up going for we did get our quality control for durability, and then we also went for the analysis suite for personnel to improve his experience stat. So hopefully that will increase for Daniel Tictum for the next season. But yeah, our R&D chart, we went up there pretty well, pretty well as expected. They're right there between McLaren and AlphaTauri. A couple upgrades didn't really want to work out, but we did manage to get some upgraded here and there. But yeah, so and we also did get our third sponsor, and we're pretty much trying to get out of P7. It would be a miracle if we can get some points against AlphaTauri within these next two races, try to bump us up to P6 for the Constructors Championship. That way it'll help us out with the money during the winter break. So, like I said, we're going to go into practice, and then we'll see you guys qualifying. Alright, so we tried to ride the curves as much as possible here, and kind of cheated. It felt like we kind of cheated, but our setup is basically built for us to go over those curves with minimal damage, especially with that first uphill section in Sector 1. That's where I was losing most of my time in practice, so we went with a long shot here, and we ended up shooting up to P5 for Q1 with our time frame, but Tictum knocked out of Q1 P17 by 200s or 400ths of a second. So pretty bummed out there, but we do have money headed toward put in towards him. So hopefully by the last race or the start of next season, we will see some improvements, especially looking for improvements after the season break. I'm going to be putting a lot of my money in towards the teammate stuff and probably aero, because we are lacking in aero. So let's get to Q2. Alright, so the end of our first run, we had some floor damage going over those last few curves a little bit too rough. And we didn't have enough time to, it was a 5-minute repair job, so we didn't have enough time to go back for another run to try to get into Q3. So that strategy in Q1 kind of didn't really help out. So we're going to be starting in P16 behind Kevin Magnus into the Haas for this race. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we will see you guys on the track for the race.
Welcome along then to the Belgian Grand Prix, the race that gave us the maiden victory for the Jordan team back in 1998. And in the same team, the phenomenal debut of a young Michael Schumacher. There's always something special just around one of the many corners of this fan-favourite circuit. Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and Verstappen, Bottas, Russell, Johnson, and Lando Norris, Ricciardo, Albon, Lance Stroll, and Mick Schumacher. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Tictum, Joe, Sebastian Vettel and Nicholas Latifi. They've taken a grid penalty. Sainz, Hamilton, Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Alright, quite a surprising grid lineup here as we're starting in P9. It seems like these last few races, everyone's going to be getting their penalties for their components. Just glad that we did it last race and not these last two races. So P9 provisional points off the start. Looks like they're wanting us to start on the mediums, and I do believe we had have a set of softs. Let's go ahead and take a look here. We do have a set of softs. Will it let me go to my softs? No. Will it let me start on softs? No, it won't because we're top 10. But it will let me do softs on the alternate strategy. So what I can do here, 60% wear by lap 5, 79% wear by lap 7. We don't have the option to remove the third stint. So what we're gonna do is we don't have enough stuff for this. So lap 7, maximum tire wear. We're gonna go. No, we're just go with the medium. So let's get right to the race.
decent parking. Let's try and get a good launch as the lights go out. Okay, so that's the rest of the grid forming up now. Be patient and watch for those lights.
Alright guys, here we are with our 5 red lights here in Spa. We hit the start of the race actually really well, trying to hold up against George Russell. We take a little bit better launch, but we take a risk taking the inside, going 3 wide with the Alfa Romeo Valtteri Bottas and the Red Bull Max Verstappen as we hold the inside line here after turn 1. And coming up to this uphill section, it's a bumpy ride up this hill, so we have to be extra careful, letting off a little bit too much gas pedal that we have to, as we see Fernando Alonso quickly DNF because of an engine failure here, as I quickly make a move on the inside and almost completely crash into the back of one of the other vehicles. So we made a quick precise move there to gain a few positions, like 3 or 4 positions, or I believe it was just 2 here, as Valtteri Bottas and George Russell were just ahead of us. So, and then 3 with Fernando Alonso as well, as we are starting our downhill descent of the Sector 2 here. Losing some ground behind the top 5 of Max Verstappen, Ocon, Gasly, Leclerc, and Perez. Perez leading this race in the Red Bull here very well. And yeah, these medium tires are feeling a little bit better now that we're actually racing instead of a formation lap, as we try to get as much heat into the back tires as possible, and using the brakes to our advantage too, to try to heat the core of the tires up as well. You can see Valtteri Bottas and George Russell very close to closing in on me as we're rounding out these last few corners of Sector 3. And yeah, that's basically going to round out the end of the first lap. We gain 3 positions with the DNF of Fernando Alonso and overpassing Valtteri Bottas and George Russell in the Sector 1, right there at the top of the hill. So as you can see, Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez actually going into the pits here, as you see them going down the grid. They actually made contact with each other, and they had damage on both of their wings. So you can see both of them here, Sergio Perez just ahead of Charles Leclerc. And we're actually going to be on board with Charles Leclerc here as they're coming out of pits, because there was a virtual safety car that came out. And we're up the top of the hill, and I was wondering why the virtual safety car came out. So we actually had to wait till we get to this replay to see what was going on. As you can see, Charles Leclerc coming up behind Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez being very slow, and Charles Leclerc literally ending up on the road with a missing tire. So we're going to be swapping over to the perspective of Sergio Perez as he's coming out the pits, trying to figure out what's going on here, why he was going so slow. At first I thought he was waiting for the white line, but they're in the back of the pack, so I don't know what was going on. But we do find out here, he ended up being stuck in second gear. He had a gearbox issue. As you can see, the front wing fly off of Leclerc's Ferrari, and then Sergio Perez jumping up from 2nd to 4th gear. So Sergio Perez got a warning for that. The Charles Leclerc DNFing because of a missing gear. And then literally a couple laps later, Alexander Albon locks up on the brakes and smashes into the back of, I believe, what was an Aston Martin. And actually he's pulling out the safety car as we're moving on to lap 6. We're slotting into P4 behind Max Verstappen here on the restart. I thought I was ready for this restart, but they caught me off guard. I tried to keep as much heat as possible in these back tires, but they caught me off guard, and since we kind of fucked up on this first turn, we're losing a lot of ground here on lap 7 as we make our way up the uphill section as George Russell, Valtteri Bottas are closing in behind me. As you can see him in the rear, George Russell tried to make a move. Moving on to lap 10, and we're coming into the pits for our stop to the hard tires. Thought about swapping out the wing, but there wasn't enough damage to really cause any damage to our speed and our aerodynamics, so we went ahead and went into our pits. as some of the other front runners went into the pits as well, such as Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, and a couple others. So we can see our pit crew doing some great work. Another good view of our pit crew uniforms here as we end up coming out in front of the Alfa Romeo of, I believe, still Valtteri Bottas. And coming out here and starting on lap 11. Coming up, they're still trying to get heat into these hard tires and taking that uphill section a little bit too careful here. Moving on to lap 11. Everybody else seems to be taking their pits, but George Russell, he takes his pit stop at the end of this lap, and he actually ends up with a successful overcut on us. He ends up in P5 with Lewis Hamilton being in first place because he is still on the mediums. He is not yet pit, so he's going to be pitting on the end of lap 12. He's going to be slotting George Russell in the P4 and me in the P5. Moving on to lap 13, we're going to be on board with Joe Granu here. He pretty much had an engine failure here around these last few corners as he finds a little bit of space on the side with an opening to retire his car. So far, lap 17, we have 4 DNFs for this race. And a little bit of challenge here from Lando Norris here. And coming around these corners, trying to stay as close to these corners as possible without making any contact with him. As we're coming down to the start of the downhill section here, Lando Norris has the inside corner, and we end up leaving off the gas a little bit too much here, give him a little bit of leeway, and we end up losing his toe. So Lando Norris secures P5 on lap 17 of this race. And then moving on towards the end of the lap, we're basically holding our position as best as we can as Valtteri Bottas, as we're in P6 currently to round out the end of the race.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
So as they climb out of the car, the Red Bull team are ready and waiting to celebrate a thoroughly deserved win. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here. Some amazing talents out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
It's got to be Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he pulled off some impressive feats out on the track today, even by his standards.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. It was a tough race for our championship leaders, who lose ground at the top of the table. Another team that will be satisfied with this Grand Prix is Alfa Romeo, whose good result moves them further up the championship. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
Alright, so a pretty good race with the yellow flag towards the beginning. jumping up a couple spots there at the beginning of the race. Luckily, we didn't run into anyone when the car of, I believe, Fernando Alonso or Alexander Albon, I forget which one it was moving off into the runoff. But yeah, that was kind of unexpected because there was a lot of traffic that was slowing down for that car to get out of the way. But we did manage to take advantage of that opportunity and gain some free positions. And the grid definitely got shuffled up with the penalties that started this race. Pierre Gasly was running really good, and he provisional pole for a minute, but back up to P6. I believe this is our second P6 so far this season. And Daniel took them gaining 1 position, so the pace was a little bit off there, as I believe he will have the upgrades for him before the last race. But that is our Belgian Grand Prix. We managed to finish in 6th. And Unity Motorsports is up to 27 points in the constructor standings. Nowhere near gaining position against the next team, but we do get those points, and that solidifies us in P7 in the Constructors Championship. So, with that, we will see you guys in the season finale for this first season of F1 22 MyTeam with Unity Motorsports. We will see you guys later.